guys, we're getting started on the small scale group build, and just want to show you something. The body on this Camaro, the 82 Camaro Z28 from Atlantis, is actually pretty nicely made, but there are a bunch of mold lines which we're going to have to take care of. You can see right across the center of the car there's a mold line that runs across, but on the passenger side it's clean, but on the driver's side we have a line here which we have to get rid of. Then we'll also have mold lines running across the center of the car to the front, on the roof, and on the rear hatch. So all of that's got to be taken care of before we can even go to paint. So we're going to get on that and just start getting rid of some of these mold lines. To do that, we're going to use a tool which I've used before on the channel, the Citadel mold line remover. I really like this thing as it really speeds things up and helping you get rid of the most obvious lines, and then the rest you can just go in and get rid of on your own. Alright guys, the more I put this thing together, I'm starting to see that it is an exact duplicate of the Revell kit, but in a smaller scale. I was informed by one of our model building community that this kit was originally sold by Monogram. We're going to have to look up the ScaleMates records of this thing and see exactly what it was that it was originally sold as before Atlantis got their hand on it. But the Atlantis version here is a really good kit so far. I'm really enjoying it, and if it's half as much fun as the Revell version in 1/24 scale, I'm going to be really happy I decided to jump on this thing for the small scale group build, because I'm really loving that 1/24 scale Revell build. We got here all of our parts for the chassis and the engine, and then a couple of the seat parts just for good measure, and we're going to put them all together, get them ready for paint. We already have the body prepped and ready for paint, so hopefully that'll be good enough. After we put primer on it, we won't have to do any more.
I'm announcing it now so that you know that you're aware.
Alright, we're putting the seats together. One thing of note on these seats is that they have absolutely no alignment pins at all. So it's going to be up to you to set these seats up correctly. So you got to be very careful when you line everything up. And for this, I recommend the Tamiya Extra Thin Cement, so that way you can hold it perfectly even, as you can see here. Keep everything perfectly straight and even, and then apply your cement. I like to do one section at a time. Here I'm going to do the headrest, and that's going to help to hold the seat together so that I use the headrest as an anchor, because I'm going to have to move my hands in order to glue the rest of it. But once the headrest is glued together, now I can move it around and not worry about losing my alignment to the seat. And this Tamiya Extra Thin dries immediately. And the best thing about it is that it fuses the plastic together. It's not a cement. It's more like it melts the plastic. And dries very, very quickly. Very good for something like this where you have to keep the parts aligned by gluing the headrest together first. It allows me to make an anchor so that the rest of it stays together. That way I can move it while it's... And I don't have to worry about the seat back becoming misaligned from the front. If you had alignment pins, it wouldn't be such a problem. But without any alignment pins, this method helps to keep everything nice and straight. Now I'm going to have to do some work on the seam here, same as I did on the other seat. As you can see here, to even it all out so that when we primer it, it's going to appear to be one solid part. So I'm going to get to work on that, and we'll be back when that's all done. Okay, guys, I'm back here while I'm doing some of this. Just figured we'd talk about some sanding, filing, and seam repair techniques. Now, what I like to do is I love to use the Tamiya Extra Thin as I'm filing and sanding, as the residue from the sanding, the plastic shavings, as they fill the gap, the Tamiya will actually melt them and help use them, and help it to use them to be used almost like a filler, putty or paste. And that helps us fill that gap so that as you're sanding it, the gap slowly starts to disappear. And I also like to start sanding once I have the gap pretty much done. I put the Tamiya glue on it and I start sanding it before it completely dries. And this helps us get to the point where you run your fingernail over it and you can't even feel the gap anymore. Now with this particular plastic and its metallic coloring, it's kind of hard to visually see when the seam is gone, because it darkens the edge of the plastic itself as it's working. So you can still see the line, but you run your fingernail over it, and as long as you can't feel it, you're going to have a pretty good shot at getting rid of it as the when you apply the primer. Now, another technique I like to use is I run my hobby knife over the seam just to even out the two parts and help eliminate the majority of the raised edges on the seam. So that then when you're sanding, it just makes it a little easier to sand, as you've already gotten rid of the majority of the uneven side, of the unevenness that you're trying to get rid of. And you have it shaved down to one, basically one level. I don't know how to really explain this, but you make it all smooth. So that one edge is not higher than the other. And that's how you get it to look like one solid piece instead of two pieces that were just glued together. As you see there, most of our evening out of the two sides is already done. And now we're going to go in with the sanding stick, and we're going to just clean up everything we've just done. Very nice. Now, what I like to do again, I go over it with a little bit more of the Tamiya. And as you notice, when the glue soaks in, it actually darkens the line. that you're working on. So it seems as if you're making the seam worse, but you're really not. So we're going to let that soak in a little bit. Let it start to dry. And then before it completely dries, we're going to hit it with, because now we have the soft plastic that we're kind of just sanding together and fusing together even more while it's not completely cured. And this is the method that I use for cleaning up seams. The sanding stick is pretty much almost worn out. And so I like to round off the edges because we're working on a seat here, not a piece of, it's not supposed to look like metal, it's supposed to look like cloth, and of course you know that it's going to be soft round edges instead of any hard solid edges. Here, we're going to soften that up a little bit. A little bit more here. And there we go, guys. That's pretty much got the seat almost finished. Now, your final step is to prime it, and that will reveal if there's any more work that needs to be done. But for now, that's going to be pretty much it. So we're going to start setting everything up and getting them ready for primer. Okay, guys, I just noticed something weird about these seats. If you take a look at the two headrests, they're different. Don't know why that is, but looking at the instructions, it's that way there too. So I guess that was intentional. Why? I don't know. I have to do a little research on this car and see if it came with two different headrests, a smaller one for the driver and a bigger one for the passenger. I don't know what that's all about or if it's supposed to be that way, but that's a weird little quirk. We're going to leave that way. Weird. Okay, let's keep going with this. Okay, guys, as I'm getting this thing ready for paint, or just in primer, I just got one more little tip for you. If you got a part that has no obvious way to hold it, so that when you paint it, you have nowhere to grip it, I take a little piece of sprue, some of the Tamiya thin cement, and I put it in there, and I just let it fuse the two parts together. And when you do that, boom, now you have a way to hold your part so that you can paint it on all sides. And when you're done, just snap the new part holder right off. Works really great. Alright, guys, as you can see here, we have just about all of the parts for this build ready to go to the booth to lay some primer. We have all of the body parts. We have them separated into two groups, which is the chrome group and the not chrome group, so that we can work out exactly what our plan of attack is going to be. Haven't really decided on the interior yet. It's probably going to be following the tradition of the chrome builds. It's going to have a red and black two-toned interior, as that's what I did in the last two. But the body is where I'm going to be really interested, because I'm trying something I haven't tried before, or that I've only tried once before, let's say, and had pretty decent results, but I've never tried it on a car. So this is going to be really interesting to see if this works and gives me a mirror finish blue tinted chrome effect. May work, it may not. I don't know. We're going to find out. So we're going to end it here. All our parts are prepped and ready to go to the booth. And on the next update, we'll be at the paint booth and we'll see whether this works or just blows up in my face. Alright, guys. Stay tuned.